There's a Saga, White Plume Adventurer. We also pointed Ren in 6 not that long before this. And this was largely in an effort to lower the power level. And in practice, what this did is it made it so that, specifically red-green decks were worse. It, for a time, made it so that black decks were worse. I think Psychic Frog is the one point of these 5 points that's like a slam dunk. It was correct. But the other four basically just prescriptively pushed us in the direction of what the correct way to build the kind of like fair, quote unquote, decks in the format was. There is a reason why, for the last year, one of like the most dominant fair deck in the format was Jeskai. And it's because when you look at these changes, Jeskai was the one that didn't get any changes, and then MH3 printed Tamio, we've had Wan Shitong get printed, we had Stock Up get printed. It's not super feasible to stay on top of the power level of fair decks by trying to point the new cards. You're going to run into issues with that unless you are extremely reactive, which we have not been. And Genesis has had the same problem. So I mentioned that, like, in this hypothetical, if you're playing the format and a new set comes out, and that new set releases this brand new archetype, that archetype is going to enter the game unpointed. And Yu-Gi-Oh is different from Magic in the sense that Yu-Gi-Oh sets release like whole baked archetypes in one set that are intended to compete at the most competitive level possible. Sometimes they happen over like 2 or 3 sets. They have to like supplementally get a few more cards to really hit playability and to be like metagame factors. But in general, archetypes are designed
and are supposed to
all in one
retain the
go
limit
to
increase?
be played in the format as is. And so what that means is that for Genesis, it's even worse than in Canadian Highlander, right? Because in Canadian Highlander, we want to run into these issues where it's like, yeah, okay, like we've had too many good blue cards printed in the last year. And as a result, I think there's a general feeling in the format that blue is very good, that combo is kind of too good, similarly because they got a bunch of good blue cards, and that specifically like green mid-range is in a pretty horrific position because their cards got pointed and they didn't get anything printed. That gets exacerbated in Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis context, where when a new engine gets printed, a new archetype gets printed, all of a sudden that's usually going to be one of the best things to do in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Genesis format. So this is just a deck list I pulled up from one of the most recent Genesis tournaments I could find online. This is a deck that made top 4. There were 2 other decks of the same archetype. This is Cool Tune is what the archetype is called. This is quite new. This archetype is like from either the most recent set or I think maybe it's one set previous and it's getting more support now. And like you can look at the point values in this deck. They are spending almost no points on their actual like quote unquote names, like the Cool Tune cards. They have these ones are 5, so they're spending basically like 30 points on their engine, and then they get to spend everything else on what's called non-engine. And non-engine is what we would just think of in Magic as like interactive spells. So
I don't know which one's
the
new.
most powerful interactive spells in Genesis are pointed very highly, but if your engine doesn't cost very many points, then you get to have access to much more high quality interaction than the average other deck might. And I should even point out, like, this is 5 now, but that's a change. Like, that happened in October, that they had to, I believe, put or December even? Yeah, it was December. This happened in December, that these Cool Tune cards went to 5. And previously they weren't, and the deck was even more broken because its engine cost 0, and it was just playing nothing but interactive spells for all 100 of its points. Similarly, like when the format came out, there were complaints that there was this deck called Draco Tail, that's another like very powerful fair deck, and at the point of release, like when Genesis came out, Draco Tail was just playable in its like basically exactly the same way that you would play it in the normal Yu-Gi-Oh format, and it was like a tier 1 deck in the normal Yu-Gi-Oh format. So there's things like that they're gonna run into, and I think that it is fundamentally a challenging position to be in for them, because for us the changes are
Wait,
gradual. A
all
couple of better blue cards get pointed. We start to see
WX25P3.
the metagame shift, but
This is all
we can
this is
adjust.
all
We
of
can
the
make changes. The most recent Highlander points change put Mystical to 2. That
this
is a
is all
nerf
of
to
them?
those blue decks that I was
Yeah,
talking about that
109,
got a
that
bunch
is
of
quite a
cards this
lot.
year. Maybe they need another point still, but that's that can
No
be
way,
done.
dude.
But that
There's no
didn't
way that's
fundamentally
everything.
break the format. But Genesis is going to break any time that they print an archetype that is new and competitive. Like there's just going to be a period of time where the format is going to feel
So, like,
unplayable.
so far, the
And so
only.
for that reason, I'm not sure that the points list is the right approach for building the format that they want to build. My kind of thesis in this whole video is I don't think you can use a points list to really
That's the wrong
aggressively
one.
dictate the power level of a format if you are going to allow certain things to be legal. So
They're not printing more support for Yuki. This is literally it. And this is pretty mid. Okay, so out of all of the cards that were revealed, all of the new arts for the most part are all pretty good. The new defensive things, uh, I'm kind of opening up to seeing that they are indeed pretty good. I was under the impression they're like pretty win more. But for the most part, they do fulfill a niche in the new format they're building with this new set. But speaking of that new format, it is very much a power creep format with all of the new arts and lyrics. I mean, this has been happening since the previous few sets. Diva format is straight up fucking dead, man. I still don't know about Yuzuki, but so far the lyrics to be playing is Miko Miko, Hirana, and as far as I can see, Hanare, and then that's about it. I don't know much about Yuzuki. I haven't fought her much. I haven't played as her much. And then everything else kind of sucks. They put in new assists, but like they kind of just fucking suck ass. There's some generic support, and then obviously specific support meant for all of the new things. But like most of them are pretty underwhelming. I mean, if Yu-Gi-Oh's anything to go by, this is pretty standard as far as card games go. But man, I was really hoping Yuki. I was really hoping Yuki would be a meta threat. But so far, this is the best I could come up with. Uh, Having a pure build with Labyrinth is probably not as important if you're gonna be playing Tama anyways. And the mono color definitely I think is not the way to go. But so far with just this initial testing with a mono white Yuki Mayu build, uh, it's not very impressive. I think that's really sad. But for the most part, this is a really good set. It's a banger set. I don't know, man. You know what? Fuck it. I know how this is supposed to work now. At least let's cope with Mayu. No, please play with me. I wanna cope with my Yuki Mayu build. I can always count on you. Unfortunately, you don't play decks that I enjoy playing against. But beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. Piss on my titties, dude. There's piss on my titties. Okay, Mugen, I'm willing to accept that. Unfortunately, we lose. Because there's no way I'm out grinding Mayu. Mugen. That is a statistical impossibility. Since Mayu's limit still pretty much sucks, you're still forced to play an enhance. I was supposed to do that the other way around. Oops. I get my shadow at least. Not that it matters. And honestly, it does not matter that this gets trashed. I didn't mean to attack. But then again, I wasn't gonna be able to trash it since I couldn't get rid of its ability. Let them have their blue. They started with a blue. No way I was gonna be able to avoid them not being able to trigger. Oh, and look at that. They energized with one form divided to many another blue. Seems kinda like a bad hand for them. Although, long spear, Manomin turn 1 is kinda where you wanna be. Re-get Bible early on in the game is not where you wanna be though. Please tell me you didn't plus. Oh hell yeah, they missed. They blanked. I'll get rid of this guy. They didn't discard. I won't be able to guard with my servant. I'll be taking 1 damage either way and getting rid of 1 enter. May as well. Right, because it's the rig doing the thing. Long spear gives the effect, so shadow doesn't matter too much. It's add to hand first. Uh, they targeted first, targeting Code Palace. They don't have a guard. They would have put it down immediately. It's worth it. The last defensive
One
card they're
conversation
playing.
that I've seen coming up in the Highlander Discord is like, oh, there's all these old cards that I used to be able to play 5 years ago. Like, I wish we could make points changes to the point where those cards would be playable again. And that's just not feasible. Like, the format is a living format. Things are going to age out. And if we are accepting this conceit of, we're going to allow Moxen, we're going to allow the Power 9 to be legal in our format, that is inherently accepting that our format is going to be quite high power, and that when new similarly high power cards get printed, like, it's not feasible to try and stamp out every single one so that we can continue playing 2016 Highlander or something like that. It's just not a thing that I think is possible or would be very good. We don't want to end up with a super long list. So yeah, that's all I really had to say about this. I think that Heliogenesis is a really cool idea, and I think that it's a really interesting concept. But I think in practice, it has not been executed really the way that I think Konami would hope for, and that's been borne out. Like, content creators in the Yu-Gi-Oh space are a little bit disaffected. Like, the community is a little bit disaffected with the format. It's been out for about 6 months now, and it really hasn't taken in the way that I think you would really hope for. I guess the one other thing I would like to, I should point out, actually, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, is that the other thing that Genesis is doing about with its points list that's very different from Canadian Highlander is that, yes, this is a points list, but it's also kind of a banned list. And that's also problematic, I think, from a standpoint of, like, if you're secretly just making a banned list, like, maybe why are we using a points list? It seems like it introduces
I
unnecessary
feel like
complexity for
they
the
should have
sake of
attacked
being
there.
novel. So, like, for example, this Ame no Habakiri no Mitsurugi card. is 100 points, which means it would take your entire deck of points to play one of these. So you don't get to play any of the really premium interaction. But hey, maybe this is like the imaginary situation in Canadian Highlander where Time Vault costs 10. And we say, hey, Time Vault is so good that if you play Time Vault, you are not allowed to play any other cards that are on the points list. But you could play Time Vault and you would still have untappers and it would still theoretically work. The thing about this card, and I'm so glad I left Master Duel open. God, I feel like such a genius. So this is that deck. This is the
Jesus
card.
Christ, what the fuck
Um,
are these searches every time I've been
this
doing them
card
so far?
requires other things in the deck to
They're
work,
pretty
right?
fucking
So
ass.
Yu-Gi-Oh engines aren't just one card; they typically are a package of cards. And so in this case, uh, Habakiri, which is what it's kind of shortened to most of the time, needs you to have a Mitsurugi ritual in your deck, and it needs you kind of to have access to Mitsurugi prayers as well, in order to actually like do the thing that makes this card powerful. Without access to these cards, this card does nothing. It is functionally a useless card. So you would think, if we're using that approach that I had kind of talked about, like, okay, in the hypothetical of we want Time Vault to be 10, we think it's that powerful, we would leave Voltaic Key at 0, right? But what you will find, hit the old control find on Mitsurugi
What am I
here,
targeting?
is that both prayers
Oh,
and ritual are
right,
at 51,
Yuki's ability.
which means,
Except
in addition
I
to
can't do it.
not being able to play them alongside Habakiri, which is, as previously mentioned, like the card that makes this deck work, you can't even play them in the same deck. You can't put both of these cards in the same deck. You can't even say I'll try and play the Mitsurugi archetype with no Habakiris, and one prayers and one. You just can't play it. So it's a ban list. It's banned. It's just banned. Like the deck is just banned. It's
Yoink.
not a points list. And so as a result, like that feels kind of weird to me as well. And you're kind of mixing your intentions. Now they do say that they want specific combos to be priced out of the format. And I guess the theory is that you can price out a combo while still leaving the cards legal to be used in other more equitable or fair applications. And I'm sympathetic to that notionally. But I think in practice, boy, does that not happen very often. Like, I don't know. I'm not enough of a Yu-Gi-Oh player yet to be able to tell you, like, oh yeah, Gimmick Puppet Nightmare being at 70 is a shame because the OTK deck you can play with it isn't playable, but you could play it in some other deck. I mean, I know this card actually, and like you can't. Like this card at 70 means that every deck that would play this is dead. It can't play this card. Similarly, like uh, Dodo Warrior, like this at 70, like more or less prices you out of ever being able to play the archetype that this card goes in. So, like, to me, there's this weird issue where they seem much more Konami, that is, seems much more comfortable with the notion of either pseudo banning cards or in the
Yeah, it
case of
definitely
making
doesn't
cards
feel
100,
enough to
like
just
these
be
cards
playing
are
two
banned.
of
Like
this.
you can't register these cards. It's not feasible to do so. And so I think that's the one other thing that I think is a little bit weird is that we have like this points list that is ostensibly existing to allow flexibility in deck building, but many of the cards exist at a point value which allows no flexibility in deck building. And their stated reason for why they've done it this way is that they are suggesting that tournament organizers can run tournaments at whatever point value they want. So essentially, they're saying, oh, yeah, I mean, sure, we're saying 100 points is what the normal Genesis tournaments at competitive events will be run at, but you could run a 500-point Genesis event if you wanted to really go off the rails. And I think that kind of, if you're trying to satisfy both the ability to maintain a stable, playable 100-point format while also catering to the playability of like 500-point Genesis at your local tournament, I think you're ending up in a problem state. So yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to say. I knew I had another point. I want to be very clear. I've been enjoying playing Yu-Gi-Oh. And as a determinate combo player in Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh suits me just fine. Like the zero sum games don't bother me. I'm a big fan of taking 25 game actions while my opponent takes two. So I have been having nothing but fun. But I do think that there are just some fundamental problems with the way that the format is designed, and I also think that the approach that they are trying to take is a bit of a cautionary tale. I think for us, the Canadian
I-
Highlander scene, I think it is uh, a
Is Truth
dangerous road
bugged
to walk
again?
down to be trying to keep all of these fair cards pointed, unless we are going to drastically increase the cadence at which we are going to do the pointing. If we were going to commit to pointing on a higher cadence, I think it would be fine, and we could stay on top of it in a way that felt reasonable. But I think, anecdotally, this last year, because there were so few changes, has really felt like the kinds of archetypes that you've been allowed to play at a high level have felt pretty limited, and it felt like it was figured out relatively quickly. And people have kind of just been iterating on that same meta and trying to be on the right side of the triangle in that particular week, right? Are you playing the playable blue mid range deck? Are you playing one of the Taxes decks that beats up on the combo decks, or are you playing the combo decks that beats up on everything else in the format except for the Taxes decks and maybe some of the blue mid range decks? Um, so yeah, that's all I've got for this week. I know this was a very different video. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked talking about this kind of stuff. I've enjoyed learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think that this Genesis format seems very interesting, and I really hope that they get it sorted out because I do genuinely feel very strongly that points lists are a good way to manage format balance, but I do think that they are that they are maybe missing the mark a little bit currently, and I think that there's some stuff that they could be doing better. In particular, as it relates to new cards, I think that they really need to implement a policy where new cards come out at some arbitrary value, like 10 or something like that. They've got to find some way so that new engines aren't just coming out at zero, breaking the format for a month, and then subsequently landing at their correct points value, because the release cycle of product is going to be such that like you're just going to end up with an unplayable format for 3 or 4 months of the year, which seems bad. But yeah, without further ado, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.
Ah, my other lube was on my life plus. These can't realistically do anything anymore this late into the game. Eh. Seems weird to be playing something like this.
Hello and welcome back to the show. White Forest enjoyers around the world, rise up. Life is so worth living. 2026 is our year. This will be a phenomenal year to play Yu-Gi-Oh! First of all, I want to talk about the future of White Forest. We have, actually, not joking, extremely useful support coming in the future. The Fallen of the White Dragon stuff and the bridge through the Magistus cards into
I
White
think
Forest
I
is very
honestly
useful, like
grew a little
actually
too
competitively
early.
viable stuff. And we also have Dark Magician of Destruction, which, aside from Diabel's the White Witch and Diabelstar Vengeance, will be the single biggest competitive upgrade that White Forest has ever had in the history of White Forest. For that reason, I will not be covering Dark Magician of Destruction in this video. He's also coming still soon, but slightly less soon than all the other stuff. So there will be lots of content on this, don't worry,
Then
but not
again,
in this video.
I don't really
Instead,
think I ever
this
had
video
a
is going to
chance here.
focus on Fallen of the White Dragon and the Magistus stuff. I want to
I would have been
briefly
able to deal
mention,
one
though, that
extra
there
damage
are
if
going to be other options, I think, for
Yuki was
playing this
able to do
deck.
her thing,
And
but
I think that
that's
the Fedralis Harmonia card is strong enough that we should consider,
fucking
even
hell.
though it will be much harder to deck build around this card's effect is so strong that it is worth considering what type of White Forest build would you have to play to fit this into the deck. So, I will briefly go over some of the important cards, and then I will just get straight to the combo lines and give you an idea of the different sizes of packages you can consider, and what to do if you fall prey to the lock. Fallen of the White Dragon, you don't always have to lock yourself, but when you do have to play the deck a little bit differently. So I'll show you what to think about there too. Let me briefly touch on the Harmonia stuff first, because I'm not going to be showing combo lines for this right now. So this card is a level 7 Dark Dragon Tuner, 2500 attack, 2000 defense. And this says, when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, so this is a hand trap type card, but they do have to activate the monster effect on the field. You can reveal this card in your hand and up to 5 synchro monsters in your extra deck.
Dude,
Apply these
all
effects
of
in
their
sequence based on the total
life
number
plot
revealed.
triggers a
Also, you
life
cannot
burst,
activate the effects
man.
of monsters
Well,
from
that
this
one
from the
didn't.
extra deck until the end of your next turn, except synchro monsters. So you will be doing all of the reveals. So just assume that you're going to be using all these effects. First of all, you're going to special summon this card. Second of all, you're going to send one of the synchro monsters from your extra deck that you revealed to the graveyard. This is one of the big things. And then you're going to destroy a monster that your opponent controls. So if you use this on your opponent's turn, like basically as a turn 0 type card, then you will be locked on your turn. It is very important to consider this because your deck building will change whether you want to play the Azamina stuff or you play it and you accept the fact that you may not be able to use it if you draw this card. This will matter. This is why I say deck building will be a little bit more difficult, and so this will have its own video. But if you special summon this card, you destroy a monster your opponent controls. Maybe you've dumped Cloud Beast, which means you also get to bounce a monster your opponent controls. You have an extremely strong turn 0 type card. The types of cards that you can make afterwards will also change because this is a level 7 tuner. So for example, if you have a level 7 tuner and then a level 2 non-tuner, you could go into a level 9 like Shen Shen, for example. And there could be decks that Shen Shen is very strong against because of the Macrocosmos type effect. So there are lots of like options that I think that are worth thinking about with this card. You can also dump something like the Despian Luluwalith. So let's say that you think you don't need to dump the Cloud Beast to get that additional bounce, and that the destruction from the Harmonia card itself is enough, or you need some extra push. You could dump the Luluwalith And then during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon a light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals its own defense. And we do have a light spellcaster monster whose attack equals its own defense, which is full White Forest combo. Because this comes out in the end phase, it will be much harder for our opponent to interact with this and clear this from the board. So if we start our turn with a Stellar on field, we have basically started with an extra card, but we decided what the extra card was going to be, and that extra card threatens full combo alone. So there are enough options that I do think it is worth testing this, and I will be trying this card out and showing you what type of build I think makes sense with that. But let's jump into the theme of this video, which is really the Fall of the White Dragon and all the things that it enables with the Zoroa stuff. So first of all, let me just show you what happens in terms of card economy before we get into all the bridges. Like, let's just think about what these cards actually do in a totally self-contained, coherent way. So you have Fall of the White Dragon. If it's in your hand, you can send a monster that mentions Fallen Valbaz from your extra deck to the grave, special summon this card. Now, this is already crazy because if you dump Albion, Albion can search something like the Fallen Virtuous, which White
Albion?
Forest might have
Who
played
fucking
anyhow,
pronounces
even
it
before
like
these cards
that?
came out. But you cannot
I've
special
never
summon
heard
from the
anyone
extra deck for
pronounce
the
it
rest of the
like
turn
that.
except level 8 fusion or synchro monsters. So that's if you special summon this card. You don't have to do that because whether it is normal or special summoned, you can special summon one Ecclesia monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. These are once per turn. Now the common theme here will be card economy. So let's say that you do special summon this, so we are now locked from our extra deck to level 8
Definitely needs
fusion
lots
or
of work.
synchros. We have dumped Albion, which means we can't access, for example, the Fallen the Virtuous in the end phase. So we
Y'all
use
knew
Fallen the
that.
White
Holy
Dragon,
shit,
we
this
dump
guy's
that, and
playing
when we summon
Mama
it, we bring out Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous. Now,
in
one cool thing about this card
2026.
is if your
Actual
opponent controls
Mama,
more monsters than
solo
you do, you
Mama.
can special summon it from your hand. And if you want to try a build that you're playing like 3 of
I'm
this,
not playing
perhaps
for my
because you're
last
also
game, I'm
playing
just
the
watching
actual
these
OG
guys.
Fallen of Valbaz, and you want to threaten like a Mirror Jade immediately going second, how many copies of this card you play determines how you think about your non-engine ratios. So this is one of the
Mama
useful things
thinks
about this
she's
card,
Yuzuki,
even though it
guys.
maybe not be super optimal to draw if you're going first. During the main phase, you can tribute this card, special summon one Sword Soul monster or one Fallen of Valbaz from your hand or deck.
I haven't read any
During
of
the
the
end phase, if a
dragons.
fusion monsters was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this card from the graveyard to your hand. So always, the card economy works together. You know, if we dump the Albion, this satisfies the last effect here where we get to add this back to our hand. Now here, because I'm not showing you the bridge yet, I'm just showing you some basic card economy with these new cards that have come out. You could go straight into Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. Now this is a generic, and it says during the main phase, quick effect, you can banish this card, but just until the end phase, so you get this back, and if you do, special summon one Fallen of Albaz or one level 4 or lower monster that mentions it from your deck or graveyard. If this card is in your graveyard, you can target a level 8 fusion monster in your graveyard or banishment, and you'll usually have Albion or whatever else you dump there, and one card on the field, so it can be your opponent's card. Shuffle both of those cards and this into the deck. So the card economy on all this stuff is insane. Like the fact that when you banish
What do
this,
you
you special
gain
something
from
else
playing
out, but you
Mama
get
here?
this back in the end phase.
From what I
Or like if
remember
this happened
reading,
to go to the
Mama
graveyard because you
really
used synchro
sucks.
material or your opponent cleared it or whatever, you still get to shuffle your stuff back and also shuffle a card your opponent controls. Like all this is insane. So what I'm showing you right here, I'm not showing you like an optimal combo, I'm just showing you the card economy of this deck. Let's say that we use this effect. And let's say that we weren't even playing some other useful target for this. We were just bringing out another Incredible Ecclesia. Let's just say that's what we were doing. And we ended our turn like that. So in the end phase, this comes back from Banished, and the Albion sets are Fallen the Virtuous. What we're set up with here, after we
Guaranteed
add back
removal
this to our deck as well,
once every turn,
is
I
our opponent
suppose,
goes
is
to play.
pretty good.
And let's say they do
Too
something super
expensive
threatening.
though,
So they summon
even for
Kozaki.
green.
And maybe
Because
we tag
1,
out
2,
with our
3
Incredible Ecclesia
specifically.
into the OG Fallen of Valbaz because we want to threaten a
You
Mirror
can
Jade.
pay
Like,
3,
your
but
opponent is not going to allow the Mirror Jade. You know, they're like going to
a
mash
specific
the
thing like
Ecclesia,
that is
negate the
hard to
Ecclesia,
always
or they're
be
going to deal
able
with the
to do.
Albaz so you can't go into Mirror Jade. Even if you're thinking like,
We're
well,
gonna
what about
need
the
to
card
enter
economy
charge like a
discarding
1
our
or
Fallen of Valbaz to
something.
make the Mirror Jade, but we just added back the Incredible Ecclesia.
If we were
And
up
we're going to just
against
continue
someone that
adding these cards
isn't
back
playing
as
red.
we cycle through the resources. So our opponent has to deal with the Mirror Jade threat. We still have the whatever happens, we have the Fallen and the Virtuous. If we continue playing, even with just these types of cards, whatever 12 we happen to be playing, for example, the Luluwallalith, if we're going on like for the Harmonia build or for some other reason we want to play this card, we still get to turn these cards into things that are useful, you know? And then we could use the Incredible Ecclesia or the Ecclesia of the Dark Dragon effect in the grave to put itself back and our
Okay, you know what?
Albion,
It doesn't
and then
seem
shuffle
that
back their guy on
exuberant
the
of a
field.
cost
And so
right
now it's
now.
like, okay, you don't even have to worry about running out of Albions for the Fallen and Virtuous to resolve, because you have to dump your Albion or whatever to resolve this card if you want to target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. So it's like all this stuff works together, all the resources are put back, so this package on its own is a very, very useful package. Also keep in mind, you don't just have to use the
This
pop
a
effect
new
of this if
is
you
this
aren't
a
playing
new
this
alt
engine,
art or something?
because if you have an Ecclesia monster in your field or
No, it isn't.
graveyard, which you will have if you're using this engine, then you can target a monster in either graveyard
Looks
and
nice
special
though.
summon it to your field with no restrictions, no negations. It's not like it can't attack or anything like that. So you can reborn whatever it is that you want.
The bride alt art
Okay,
though.
so now let
Probably
me show you
new.
the actual bridge. So this is the main reason that you would play something like this in White Forest. So here we're going to
Why
normal
is it
summon
always
Fall
the
of the White
stupid
Dragon,
fucking
because remember the
lolly mama?
lock only applies when you special summon it from your hand. And the reason that that lock matters, if you're locked into level 8 fusion or synchro
No,
monsters,
that one
is
isn't
because we
new
don't just
either.
want to hard make Diabell Queen of the White Forest. We want to go through Arciela as part of our standard combo. So we would never lock ourselves intentionally if we have the option not to. But we are using our normal summon. So we normal summon, we bring out Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous, we synchro into Zeroa, the Magus' Conflagrant Calamity, and this allows us to equip the Artemis from our extra deck here. And Artemis' effect allows us to search for the Crowley, which is the Magus' Poplar. So it's added to our hand, we special summon it, and then on summon, it allows us to fuse with the stuff we have on field. So here we're going to fuse into the Invoked Magus' Omega. There is another option that I'll show you in the next line, but this is the card that allows you to bridge. So if this card is special summoned, you can target one fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link monster in your graveyard and one monster on the field, banish them. Obviously, if you're going first, you're not going to be doing that, but it is nice that you have the option to be able to do this. However, what is important for the bridge is if this fusion summon card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a level 4 spellcaster monster from your deck, like
Why are we
Sylvie
slow
of the White
playing?
Forest, and then you can equip this card to it as an equip spell that gives it 1000 attack.
Also, the
So
coins
not only do
seem
you get to
pretty
bring out your White
worthless
Forest
so
starter,
far.
but you equip this as a spell and
We
trap, so
haven't
you
been able
have
to
spell
do
and trap
anything with it.
fodder for the White Forest
We are
phase.
playing cards
Now
that
you might be
use
wondering, how do we destroy
coins.
this by battle or card effect?
I
Well, there
saw
is a secret
freaking
effect on the
Layla.
Zeroa Synchro, where we get to destroy a card on our field to bring itself out, and we also get to then trigger the Invoked Magus' Omega. So, because we just destroyed that, now we bring out the Sylvie, we equip this, so now we have a spell and trap, and here you can decide, do you want to search for the field spell, because maybe you don't have enough spell or trap
Are we like
discharge, whatever
throwing
reason is, you could go for the
intentionally or
field
something?
spell,
I don't
or
get it.
you
What
could
are
just
we?
go for Tales of the White Forest,
What's Mama
and you
doing?
use your Tails, you search for whatever, you have the spell and trap discard, whatever's in the rest of your hand. So this is basically how the bridge works. The bridge is that through this card, whatever means you can make this by, through Crowley, you get to bring out Sylvia the White Forest. So that's how the bridge works. However, keep in mind, guys, whenever you mix engines together,
I
it
guess
is
we're
not
intentionally
sufficient
slow
just for there to
playing
be a
so they
bridge.
don't have
What
any
happens
enter
if
for
you
this
draw both of them
turn.
together? You don't want to draw your Sylvie, and then you're also your
Like
Fallen
we're
of the
playing, we
White
have
Dragon,
two level ones with
and they're
only
just redundant
2000.
cards. They're basically just duds. You basically just drawn 4 cards instead of 5. You always want your engines that bridge to also do something on their own, like independent of your actual main engine, so you have functional redundancy. So let me show you now. If you have a much larger package, then like there are different plays that you can make with this deck. So let's say that you have drawn Fall of the White Dragon and a blank fusion material for Dusk Dragon. By the way, I don't know why
Hey,
anyone
Labby.
calls this Grand Guignol. Just call it Dusk Dragon. So anyhow, let's say we start with our Fall of the White Dragon, and we are going to lock ourselves this time, okay? So we are locked into level 8 fusion or synchro monsters because we have dumped the Albion, but this is going to give us a ton of economy. So then, because we've summoned the Fall of the White Dragon, we get to bring out Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous, and those can go into Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. Then you can bring out Cartesia, and as long as you have a blank fusion material in your hand, because remember, the Dusk Dragon is Blazing Cartesia and then a light or dark monster, which is going to be very easy in this deck. Basically, like all the White Forest stuff is light anyhow. So let's say that you use Blazing Cartesia and you fuse into Dusk Dragon.
I feel like
Dusk
there should
Dragon
be a
on summon
thingy on
gets
field
dump
to
a level
denote
6 or higher light or
that
dark
Mama
monster
has a
from your
defense
deck or
right now.
extra deck to the graveyard. Now, one of the things that you could dump with this is you could dump the same Lulu Wallith to give you access to the Stellar in the end phase, but I think that that type of play makes more sense when you're on Harmonia, because the Harmonia gives an interruption on its own to your opponent by popping a monster, and then in the end phase it gives you the Stellar. So I feel like dumping that is not going to be as relevant here for the end phase stuff. But there's lots of other degenerate stuff we can dump, like Archlord Christia. So now that we've dumped that, let's just say we go to the end phase. So there's nothing else that we're doing in our hand. We go to the end phase. We get back Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon, which is crazy. We set our Fallen the Virtuous because we had dumped Albion the Branded Dragon. And we also add back our Incredible Ecclesia because there was a fusion in the graveyard. That also applies to Cartesia. So just because of that one Fallen of the White Dragon and our blank fusion material of Light
Dude,
or
the
Dark,
timing on
we
that
get
is
to end our
terrible
turn
every
like
single
this.
time.
So now when our opponent goes to play, let's say that they do something threatening. So they start by summoning Kozaki, and we want to go Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon to bring out,
17
let's
cards
say,
in the
access to
Ender,
OG
dude,
Fallen
what
of
the
Albaz. Okay,
fuck?
so we Fallen of
Oh my
Albaz to
god, we're
threaten a
playing
Mirror Jade. No
Ender?
one is going to allow a Mirror Jade to hit the field. So your opponent is going to stop this. And whatever you have to discard for this doesn't matter because you've added back 2 cards for free anyhow, and you can just continue cycling through these cards. So you're going to threaten your Mirror Jade there. They're going to have to do something. You also have your Fallen the Virtuous, which in this case, you are not going to be using to pop a monster, which is what you would do if you were just playing this card in a vacuum with none of the rest of the package. You can also, if you have an Ecclesia monster in your field or graveyard, target a monster in either graveyard, any monster, and special summon it to your field with no restrictions. So now you have access to your Archlord Christia. Ideally, you have brought out a Mirror Jade first, or you've threatened some type of response to that, and now you have your Christia, and it's like, what is your opponent supposed to do? They're stuck
I
on
still feel
Kozaki.
like we
And so
should
as you
have
continue playing the
played, we
game,
should have
you
activated the
continue
once
floating
per
your
turn
resources
ability.
over and over.
I
It's
don't
like,
get
this
it.
stuff is insane.
What
So
were
the
they
last thing that
doing?
I want
Are
to
they
cover is
they're
the lock.
they're actually
Let's say, and I
throwing, I'm
really think this is going to
convinced.
happen very often. People are going to be playing White Forest. They're going to get too caught up in things, and they're going to forget that they're under a lock. And so what happens when that happens? This is what that looks like. So let's say you start with Fallen the White Dragon, and let's say you want to special summon this because you're playing greedy, okay? Let's say you've already drawn your Sylvie, and you're like, oh, I have both the Fallen of the White Dragon combo and also the White Forest combo. So let me special summon this so that I can normal summon this, okay? So now we are under the lock where you can only summon from the extra deck level 8 fusion or synchro monsters.
Damn, that
So we
doesn't
summon our
matter.
Fallen White Dragon. That brings out Incredible Ecclesia. That goes into Zeroa. And you don't actually have to do the Ecclesia and the Black Dragon stuff. But here we're obviously not going to go for the bridge, okay? So instead of making the Magistus Omega guy, we go Artemis, we get Crowley, okay? Crowley special summons itself when it's added, fusions on summon, and here we go into the Zeroa Fusion. So the Zeroa Fusion is a very useful card, and I think if you are playing this engine, you have to play this, because this is what makes it to where you don't have to play any large package with Fallen the White Dragon, the Blazing Cartesian. You don't have to play any of that stuff, but you do have to have an alternative to the bridge when you draw both engines. So this guy says you can target one effect monster your opponent controls or in your graveyard, equip that effect monster to this card. That's pretty strong. You can target an effect monster your opponent controls or in your graveyard, equip that effect monster to this card. That's strong. When a monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can send one face-up Magistus monster card you control to the graveyard, negate that effect, then you can destroy one card your opponent controls. These are once per turn effects. Now the crazy thing about this card, similar to the card economy stuff from the Fallen the White Dragon package, is this does so much. This is such a useful boss monster. And you are, as this is a level 8 fusion monster, not locked out of this, even if you've gotten this through Fallen of the White Dragon. So this card is a very strong card. It has strong presence on the field. It continues to apply presence on field afterwards.
Nice.
So now that you've done this, okay, let's say that you've forgotten about the lock and you're ready to go off with your Sylvia the White Forest, and you even think, even if I don't have spells or traps, I can use this as a spell or trap, and I can still get the negate off of this by sending itself, even though that's not ideal. But let's say
You're
this
not
is what you're
attacking
thinking.
with the
So now you
Lyrig.
normal summon your Sylvie, because you didn't use your normal summon. Let's even say that you are not adding tails because you need the spells or traps, okay? So you go for Witch of the White Forest, which means you're also going to lock yourself out of the Azamina fusions, which you can't even make anyhow because these are 6s and you're locked into 8s as long as our fusions are synchros. So now we go for LZ of the White Forest, and we're like, well, we need our spells and traps here, so I'm going to have to send the Artemis anyhow. You send the Artemis, bring out your LZ, you search for your Azamina LZ, and you realize that you cannot make Arciela because it is a 6 and not an 8. So you're like, what am I supposed to do here? You put it on the field and you decide to make an 8.
What's happening with
you
the
go into
Hirana?
Diabel, Queen of the White Forest.
Kinda,
You do
kinda
not
drawn
get an add
bad.
back, which you may not have depending on how you played so far, but you don't have the add back because you didn't make it off the Arciela, and you don't have the Arciela search.
They are not
So you're like,
using
okay,
any
what
of
am I supposed to do
their
here? You activate
big
LZ
deck.
Azamina the White Forest to search for something, but it can't be anything that leads into the Azamina fusions. So you go for your wanted. Your wanted searches for your Black Witch. Your Black Witch sends your other spell or trap, so it didn't matter the order you did it in, and now you set your blank. So when you go to pass here, assuming you have, let's say, like at least one other spell or trap to send off of Diabel Queen, I suppose then you can bring out your other card. You're going to have your Betrayal or whatever your blank is. You may be able to float the Bielsa or the Black Witch. You may still have your negate off the Zeroa. So it is worth thinking. You do not want to back yourself into this position because this is what it will look like if you don't play around the luck at all. And this is obviously like decent in terms of card economy, assuming you have other cards in your hand, but this is not nearly close to the ceiling that White Forest has. So thinking about how to play around this will be very important with this engine. So any final thoughts here? I would say is, again, shout out to Breeze for the deck profile. I have changed one or two cards here just to give you an idea. I am going to make more videos in the coming days to show you
The
more
things people are
fine-tuned
making with
versions
Enner
of
are
builds depending on
admittedly
what type
pretty
of
freaking
package you want to
hilarious
play,
so
like
far,
with
though.
a very large package, for example, including the Cartesia stuff, with the smallest package possible. What happens if you don't want to play Crowley because this is basically a brick? Like, it's only useful if you actually add it to your hand besides
Nice.
drawing it. So it's not used. If you hard draw this card, this is horrible. You also could play stuff like Chorozo. Like this can lead to other. It's more likely to come up with the Magista stuff because they can put other monster cards in the spell and trap zone. But I think this stuff is actually
Don't tell
very
me this
good.
is it for
It is
Hirana.
definitely worth testing, and I think we just need to consider fine tuning the stuff and thinking about how difficult the lock actually makes our life versus if it's just worth playing. And maybe we're playing a deck that isn't actually just White Forest, but it's actually a Fall on the White Dragon deck that has a very strong White Forest engine in it. So that is all for today. If you have any feedback, if you have any ideas on how to play the package or cool combos or lines with the package, especially if they're resilient or you think they're competitive, please let me know in the comments. If you want to at me in the Discord or anyone else and discuss this, please join. The link is also there. If you want to buy me a coffee, link is also in the description. Look forward to a lot more content in the future. And guys, life is looking good. Okay? See you in the next one.
Dance of the Flaming Sword. Just burn a life cloth and that should be all she wrote, right? Regardless of what defense they have. Because I don't think there's a defense here that'll matter once you do that. With a single Signy zone filled in the open and everything. Maybe they know something that I don't. They don't have a red. Do we have a servant? What? Why? Yeah, alright, they threw. Oh boy, I'm playing against stun. Defense liberation stun. Those are really good mills. Into the farthest reaches of depth, flashes of distant memories.
Looking back, the wishes we had slowly turn into huge mistakes. These withered flowers freeze like ice. They seek
the warmth of burning flesh.
Even this mighty sword is
Tarnished with rust,
twisted
reading down its lost here. Are they playing Buddhist Truck already?
The light fades away, knowing not we just wander, drifting relentlessly out of sight.
I guess newborn Bang is just there. What was that?
Unraveling life's
Intricate path, tragic destiny waiting, peaceful breeze and sweet melodies now remain a fragment in time. When thunderous crowds call out in pain, just begging for the rain.
For
Forgotten voices sing of delicate pleas, leading into the soul. Far away into madness. Everything has no eternity.
Abandon the pain, letting go for the better, patiently waiting to embrace. These tainted fingertips clasping tight, praying for a conclusion. Yet no time for us to come, for this tragedy knows no end.
Embracing the mistakes, these hands take thorn as I wait here for you. Only your hands alone, the power to mend. Let this horror come to an end. I wanna fly into home here, soaring so high out of boundaries. You'll wait and I hope you'll accept this last farewell. I don't need pity, just let me go. As I say goodbye, don't hesitate, say goodbye. I think it was a terrible idea to get rid of Anima. Hopefully it won't matter too much.
Memento Mori.
I just pretended. Can't trust anything, can't trust nobody else. I've dyed this world gray. That's the price I pay for what I've done to you. The colorless sky weighs down on me. The foggy lights, shadows are golden. Left all alone. Oh, where should I go now? I'm just staring straight at the clouds. I plead and cry, call your name like falling thunder.
Close my eyes and hear your voice. Can I just embrace you in my
4.
sweet memories? I won't say forgive me. Words can't describe my heart. I'm wishing upon a star. Take me far away to where she's waiting for me.
hurt myself. I felt a fear for days, even though I was so scared and trembling. Colorless, white way down on me. The foggy lights, shadows are fading.
Even our memories were fantasy. The moon has disappeared once again.
I sing alone, call your name like boiling thunder. Close my eyes and hear your voice when you fear.
All alone, other places to go.
I won't say, stay with me, words can't describe my heart. I wish we might be with you.
Take me to the place where my wishes will come true.
Hear my voice, call your name like falling thunder. But my wipe away my tears tomorrow. When I can go, I lay a bed that I couldn't say goodbye with a warm embrace.
But I wish upon a star that I'll call your name till I can see you
Memento Mori.
tracing the scars I hold with the gentlest touch of doubt and fear, counting my every ache I wait, wondering if after another night and day, maybe
Maybe I'll find a way to leave this way.
and
Leave behind the person I am.
Even the chains I swore I had thrown away for good this time. Why am I reaching for them now? How do I keep these wings where they belong? If you could help me bind them down, I swear I wouldn't care if it's all a lie. Falling into the dark, where you are is where I'll head. Foolishness often hides there behind a mask of borrowed pride. Another tear, another fear, float in the sand and quietly disappear. Longing for you to forgive me somehow. I keep on piling sin left to sin, just like a flower when all its petals age and lose their hue. I know the sorrow too will fade, like it was never there right from the start. So won't you take this bond and hold it tight,
Damn.
and drive it through my heart like a sword. Until I fade away. Don't let me leave your gaze. Just like a flower when all its petals lead to I'll lead into the dark where your eyes were all
The
held.
last thing they have is an art. They use this thing for the servant, and then every diva as their pieces. Definitely a defensive thing, but I have no idea what it might be. It might be a blue, it might be a white thing.
Memento Mori.
I, all by myself, raise my hand. What? Inside, right there at the end of those words and gray sky. You're right, all that remains. Left those words left in my mind. They start melting, leaving nothing behind. I know that I must confess, I hated it, it was all pretense. The kindness I showed to make me seem much stronger than I was. Don't make me carry the weight, it's nothing more than a fantasy. I can't take it, I can't take it. Let me die, let me die, let me fade and quietly disappear. And I won't be forgiven, I'll have no regrets. Why is he a Cosmos? Why are there so many Cosmos in the new set? Why can't you see that I'm right here? A sign signs of the heart that is quietly breaking. I'm crying, the memories are left inside this little room. I held them tightly in the silence of night. Don't worry if it's all a lie. I want you to stay right by my side. And every time I try to keep my thoughts inside of me, it's burning inside my throat. I'm losing my voice with every breath. I'll never make it. I'll never make it.
I wanna cry, and tell us sorrows where we live inside, in a world where the tears fall like pouring rain. But I know, yes I know, I believe I alone am the only one who isn't wrong. Though I don't even know what is right.
I wanna cry, until it's almost really laid inside. In a world where the tears fall like pouring rain. But I know, yes I know, I believe that I want and beyond the one who isn't wrong. Though I don't even know what is right. I should have went for another Belphago instead.
Memento Mori. You're the curse I want to keep. Little white crimson moon calling to me.
Good, pure as the blood, you name like poison in a note. Take my trick, I say, don't you fade away. We're shadows of fog. Run away, hearts beating wrong. Never let me go, you said, though it hurts. This tastes just like sugar red. Forbidden vampire, la love, like you deep, if you leader and wild. Wicked love born to die, just let it burn all night. Won't you stay, just promise me.
Na, 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 na.